Hi, I'm Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle, and I had an unexpected errand to run last week, so I decided to stop by the vintagiest thrift shop I know and see if they had any calendar dish towels that I could use for project bags. One of the things that I love about this store is the way that they have all of their vintage linens hanging in the front of the shop. They're not hidden, they're not playing hide and seek, and the prices in this shop are not bad at all. So you're not paying extra for the perk of having it nicely organized. That quilt there was brand spanking new. I don't think it had ever been laundered. And look at this crochet dimensional flower. Every time I see something like this, it makes me want to pick up a book and a hook or watch some videos or something and learn to crochet for myself. I love this frothy little cocktail apron. I know that I am not nearly petite enough for it, so that made the temptation for that one easy to resist. There's a little bit of a mix here of commercially produced and handmade things. That's the Coliseum, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it was a tablecloth. I didn't want to unclip it from the hanger to see for sure. I'm not sure about this oval chenille piece. It seemed too small to be a rug, and I'm wondering if someone did make that. There is so much vintage needlework at this shop. And look at this little bias tape monkey. I have seen bias tape birds before, but I haven't seen a monkey, and I've only come across this technique once or twice in all of my thrifting and antiquing and estate sailing. I would love to know if there is a book or a pattern or something out there that has just a whole bunch of those, because they look like they would be fun. And then look at this pretty striped apron, which made me realize that if I learn to crochet, I can make an apron that will fit me and not have to worry about matching the measurements of some unknown housewife who came before me. So I think that's somewhere in the plan. This little box that said tempered hairpins on the front was much heavier than I expected it to be, so I opened it up to see if there was something besides hairpins in there. Apparently hairpins weigh a lot. And I know that there are people who collect all this wonderful vintage packaging, so I hope that finds a good home. If I knew anyone who was having a baby, I would have totally paid $1 for that vintage tissue stork. But I don't. I do know someone who's getting married, but she would kill me if I bought her that bride and groom. I kind of want to do a whole video exploring the thrift stores for the most horrible wedding decor that I can find. And there is a lot of really tacky wedding decor out there, but I suppose tacky is in the eye of the beholder, like so much of this thrift store stuff is. This has got to be the most upscale thrift store I go to, and probably at least 80% of what is in here is vintage. I don't know if they toss everything that's not, or not toss, but reroute everything that's not vintage. Oh shoot, I knew Rip Van Winkle. I wonder if that is him. I always love Barnes. They have a little bit of clothing, but honestly, I think this shop has more vintage linen than it does clothing. And I like this play barn too. But I was on a mission for dish towels. They have a rack where they hang prints and posters and fabric stuff. So I thought that might be a good chance to find a tea towel. If it wasn't up front, and thinking back, it probably wouldn't be up front. It would be more likely to be in with this stuff. If you want a partially latched green duck, I know where to find him. I did not notice I wonder what that was with the house and the door. It'll give me an excuse to go back. There's a partially stitched stamped cross stitch with a dangling thread. Lots of like panel pre-printed projects for vests and dolls and things like that. big quilting hoop. It seems like they always have things like this. And this shop has probably the biggest craft section of any shop I go to. I don't make it in here often because they have parallel parking and it is hard to find a spot at all, let alone find a spot that I'm comfortable getting into because I do not parallel park well at all. Their craft stuff is sorted and labeled, and that fur reminded me I was watching a tutorial somewhere about making gnomes. Someone in my life is looking for fur like that, and I can't remember who it was. Lots of just random crafty stuff. Shoulder pads and interfacing. I don't know why shoulder pads get their own box. And a ton of purse handles. If I knew what I was working on, I am sure there is something in there that I probably need. But I was on a specific mission, which I later completely abandoned. But at this point, I was still on that specific mission. Embroider and cross stitch kits and patterns. That is the box that I was looking for, and the first few things in the top aren't embroidered or cross stitch at all. There's a kit which is so light, I really don't think that glass frame could have been in there. Another latch hook canvas. And look at the old Cruel Duck kit. Could not tell because it was in a Ziploc bag and taped securely shut. It looked like no one had started it, and it was 50 cents, so I took the gamble. And here is a little Santa, just somebody's abandoned work in progress. Do you buy things like this? It was nice fabric, so I could see someone buying it and cutting off large chunks from the outer edge to use for ornaments. I don't know if there's any saving him without a pattern. I always check the knitting needles to see if they have any of those vintage nylon needles that I like so much, and that cord gave me hope, but no, it has metal tips. And I have more metal knitting needles than anyone needs in a lifetime, especially since I do not knit with them. More napkins and table linens and washcloths, so I think I went through everywhere that there might have been linen, tea towels, and I'm honestly surprised that they didn't have any. I used to find those all the time. And what I really need to do is break down and dig through my own linen closet because I know there are some there, but it's more fun to look at the thrift stores. So that's what I keep doing. Flour sack towels, but I don't know why I decided against those. Lots of vintage sheets, but I have a huge stash of vintage sheets that I really need to do something with. There are going to be reusable shopping bags in my future once that bag ban goes into effect. And this was in the clearance section, some Ziploc bags full of fabric, lots of baby flannel, what looked like printed panels. I'm not sure if those really nice crochet, too nice to be washcloths, too thin to be pot holders, so I'm not sure what the plan for those was. More baby flannel, which someone's going to love that. And honestly, I have so much fabric that it's probably good I didn't find any fabric in my favorite choices of colors. Not sure if that was an even weave or it wasn't monk's cloth, but there was a needle in it and someone had been stitching. And I found this. I posted on Stitch Mania to see if anyone recognizes the patterns. So far I'm coming up empty. Vintage Battleship. I found over the holiday season, I saw someone who was making purses from old game boards. And so I don't know how you would even sew through the cardboard, but I will cross that bridge when I come to it after I find some super cheap old game boards to experiment with. Lots and lots of puzzles, but we have so many puzzles at home, I don't even let myself look at those anymore. especially since the kid who was doing puzzles hasn't done them forever. Okay, look at these toes. And ignore my handful of stuff there. I am kind of puzzled by these hillbilly rag dolls. It looks like someone made them. Maybe they were mass produced, and this thing, once you turn it over, oh, I thought it was weird before I saw the clown face. And whatever that purple doll is, she's not nearly as much fun. These little metal frames, they were like a printed satin picture. I don't think I've seen anything like those before. And the last of the linens to sort through. I think these were curtains. There's a rhyme or reason to it. I just am not privy to what the rhyme or reason is. Then I went to the thrift store directly next door, which is the exact opposite of this place. Was tempted to buy the cookie press just for the packaging, but talked myself out of it. That's not how you spell cookie. And then take a look at this. This is, I'm not good at decades. Is it 60s or 70s? But whatever it is the most vintage pressure cooker I have ever seen in my life. Kind of goes with my son's favorite snooty chicken crock pots, doesn't it? It had the weight in there. And I love the graphics, but there is just no way I would trust that thing to build up pressure in. And I'm sure for someone who knew what they were doing, it would be fine, but that someone is not me. My grandma totally would have brought that iron home. She's always looking for heavy irons. Probably had a lot of them. And this clown, someone put a lot of work into that, and that is one of those thrift store crafts you just want to get away from quickly. So here's my haul: the Wizard of Oz cross stitch, the Cruel kit, and some Dollhouse magazines. I'm Michelle from Michelle's Romantic Tangle. Thank you so much for thrifting with me, and I will see you again soon.